He was never just a man. He was a battlefield wearing flesh. While others bowed to temptation, he bent it to his will.
Look at him. Go on, look. They think you haven't noticed what's standing in that mirror now. They think you're still the one who used to check his own reflection for permission. You're not checking anymore. You're just looking. And what's looking back does not flinch, and that is the part they cannot forgive you for. You will not recognize the man staring back at you now. Good. They keep asking what happened to your face. They want the story. They want you to sit down and explain it to them, slowly, so they can decide whether the change is acceptable, whether it fits the version of you they still keep filed away somewhere. You are not giving them the story. You were not given one either, the year everything came apart, so you owe them exactly what they gave you. Nothing. You were forged in rooms nobody else walked into, shaped by hands that never once asked if you were ready, sharpened by betrayal you did not see coming from the mouths you trusted most, torn down piece by people who smiled the entire time they were doing it. And you did not fall apart the way they expected. You burned down to something harder. You came back up out of the ash, looking like a stranger wearing your name. And that is exactly what they cannot stand to look at. Let them not stand it. There is no apology coming. Not for the eyes that stopped asking if you were still welcome in the room. Not for the mouth that stopped smiling just to keep the peace. Not for the silence where the old apologizing used to live. You do not owe an apology for a face you did not choose to lose. They took that face from you a long time ago, one betrayal at a time, and now they want to stand in front of what's left and act wounded by it. Let them be wounded. You were wounded first, and nobody in that room offered you a mirror back then. Nobody offered you anything. You remember the night it actually started, even if you never say the date out loud. You remember the room. You remember exactly who was standing in it, and exactly what they said right before they walked out and left you there to figure out on your own how a person keeps breathing after something like that. You did not have a plan for what came next. Nobody hands you a plan. You just kept breathing, badly, for longer than anyone should have to, until one morning breathing stopped being the hard part, and everything else started rebuilding itself around whatever was left standing. Nobody clapped for that. Nobody even noticed. You did the entire rebuild in a silence so total it had its own weight, and you are not going to stand here now and pretend that silence didn't teach you something none of them will ever learn from the comfort they've always had. You remember exactly who stood there and watched it happen. You remember every single one of them. The ones who said nothing while it was happening and now have the nerve to say you've changed. Like change is the crime. Like surviving is the thing that needs defending. You are not defending it. You are done defending anything to people who never once defended you. There is no mercy left in you for that room, and there does not need to be. Mercy was something you used to hand out for free to anyone who asked nicely enough, and they took it and they took it and they never once handed it back. So you stopped. Sympathy went the same way it went, quietly, without a funeral. The day you finally understood that nobody was coming to save you from any of it. You looked. Nobody came. You stopped waiting after that. The old face is gone and it is not coming back for anyone's comfort. Let them call it whatever they want. Let them call it distance. Let them call it an attitude, a phase, something you'll grow out of if you just give it enough time and enough silence. Let them stand in their kitchens and their group chats and decide, without you in the room, what happened to you and why and whose fault it was. You are not in the room to correct them. You stopped walking into rooms just to manage what people think of you the day you finally noticed how few of them ever walked into a room to manage what you were going through. Let your mother wonder where the soft one went. Let the friend who disappeared the second things got hard wonder why you don't call as much anymore. Let the ones who watched you drowning from dry land, arms crossed, waiting to see if you'd figure it out on your own. Wonder why you don't reach for them first the way you used to. You reached plenty. You reached until your arms gave out.
Nobody has to wonder where the reaching went. It went where every unanswered reach eventually goes. Nowhere anyone can find it. Buried under everything you had to build instead, because nobody was coming. They call it cold. Let them call it whatever helps them sleep. It is not cold. It is a debt finally being called in. It is every year you spend softening yourself for people who never once softened anything for you. All of it collected now, standing in the mirror, refusing to apologize for existing at full weight. You are not who you were, and there is no ceremony where you explain that to a room that never earned an explanation. There is no scene where you sit them down and walk them gently through the years, the losses, the specific nights nobody knows about, so that they can finally understand and finally forgive you for becoming this. You do not need their forgiveness. You needed it once, and you asked for it more than once, and it was never there. So you built something that does not ask anymore. Look at the eyes in that mirror. Those used to search a room the second you walked into it, looking for a single face that approved of you being there. They do not search anymore. They do not need to. Something in you finally stopped putting your worth up for a vote every single person you met was allowed to cast. Look at the jaw. It used to soften the second anyone raised their voice near you. The way a dog rolls over the moment it senses a raised hand. It does not soften now. It holds. It has held through worse than a raised voice, and it is not going to break for one now. Look at the hands, steadier than they have ever been. Not because nothing shakes you anymore. Plenty still does, quietly, in rooms nobody sees. But because you finally stopped needing your hands to look steady for an audience. They are steady because you are not performing calm for anyone. You simply are what you are now, whether or not there is a room to witness it. Look at the way he stands in a doorway now, full width. No angling his shoulders to take up less space. No scanning the room first to see if he's welcome before he commits to walking in. He walks in like the room was already his before he arrived. And the strange part, the part that unsettles people who knew him before, is that he never announces it. He doesn't have to. A man who spent years shrinking himself for other people's comfort develops a very specific kind of stillness the moment he finally stops, and that stillness reads louder in a room than anything he could have said out loud. They wanted you broken. That was the plan, whether they'll ever say it out loud or not. Broken and quiet about it, and grateful for whatever scraps of decency came your way afterward. You were supposed to fold. You were supposed to come back smaller, easier to manage, properly humbled by everything that happened to you. You did not come back smaller. You came back looking like something they no longer recognize, and worse for them, something that no longer needs them to recognize it. There is no redemption arc here for the people who did this. There is no scene where you thank them, later, for making you strong, where the pain gets repackaged into a lesson they get to take partial credit for. They do not get credit. What you built alone, in rooms they were not invited into, out of material they handed you without knowing what it would become. They handed you the fire. They did not get to choose what walked out of it. There is no forgiveness scheduled either, and you are done pretending there has to be one for this to count as healed. Forgiveness is for people who ask for it. Nobody asked. They moved on, comfortable, certain that whatever happened to you was survivable enough not to think about twice. And you are not required to hand out peace to people who never once checked whether you had any left. You do not owe the world a soft landing on the other side of what it did to you. You only owe yourself the landing. Let them wait for the apology that made them feel better about the years they spent watching from a safe distance. Let them wait for the version of you that comes back, asking to be understood, that explains itself, that makes the whole thing digestible enough for a dinner table conversation. That version isn't coming to the table. He got up from that table a long time ago, and he is not sitting back down just because someone finally noticed the chair was empty. You will not recognize the man staring back at you now, and there is a version of you, somewhere further back than you can comfortably remember, who would not recognize him either, and would maybe be afraid of him, the way anyone is afraid of something they do not yet understand is on their side. He is on your side. That is the part they will never understand about what they built. Everything hard in that face, everything unreadable in those eyes, everything steady in those hands, none of it is aimed at you. It was built to face the world that did this. It was built standing between you and the next room full of people who think they can do it again. They expected you to come back asking for less. You came back asking for nothing, and there is a difference between the two that they will never understand, because it requires having survived something they only ever watched from a safe distance. Asking for less is still asking. Asking for nothing means you finally stopped waiting on anyone's answer to determine what you build next. They expected the fire to leave you smaller, the way fire leaves everything else. Reduced, blackened, easy to sweep up and forget about. Some things get smaller in fire. Some things get harder. Nobody warned them which one you'd turn out to be, and by the time they figured it out, it was already done, already set, already something no amount of wishing could soften back down to what it used to be. They expected you to need them after. That was always the quiet plan underneath the cruelty, whether any of them could admit it to themselves or not. Break him down just enough that he comes back needing us, grateful for whatever we're willing to offer, easy to hold on to because he no longer trusts himself to stand without us. You do not need them. That was never supposed to be possible, and it is the one outcome none of them prepared for, because it never occurred to a single one of them that the breaking might build something that doesn't come back asking for anything at all. They expected an apology, eventually, somewhere down the line, once enough time had passed, and the anger had cooled into something more manageable, more palatable, more like the version of you they could live with. The apology is not coming, not this year, not the year after. There is no amount of time that turns what happened into something that deserves a sorry from the person it happened to. You were never the one who owed a sorry. You just spent years acting like you were, because that was easier for everyone else. And easy for everyone else was the only currency that room ever valued. Let them try. Let them look at what's standing there now and reconsider whatever they were planning to say. Let them run the old lines they used to run, the ones that used to work, the ones that used to send you into that same old apologizing spiral, small and sorry and desperate to fix whatever they decided was wrong with you this time. Run them, watch what happens. Watch the words land somewhere and find nothing left to grip onto. No old wound conveniently sitting on the surface anymore. Just a man who heard the whole sentence and felt absolutely nothing move in his chest. That is not numbness. Numbness would have frightened you. This is something else. This is the specific, hard-earned silence of a person who spent that particular currency down to nothing years ago, and simply has none left to hand over. You do not flinch anymore. You do not shrink in doorways. You do not soften your voice to make a room comfortable at your own expense. You do not perform gratitude for scraps. You do not explain yourself to people who never once tried to understand you when it would have cost them nothing to ask. You do not apologize for the man in that mirror. He is not an accident, and he is not a wound left open for anyone to inspect. He is what happens when everything soft gets stripped away, and something underneath it finally has room to stand up. They keep waiting for him to apologize for taking up the space. He is not going to. He has spent too many years making himself smaller for rooms that were never actually full. There is a version of this where you grieve him, the boy who used to apologize before he'd even done anything wrong, the one who needed the room's approval just to feel like he was allowed to breathe in it. Grieve him if you need to. He did not deserve what happened to him. But do not go looking for him in that mirror anymore, because he is not coming back, and the thing that replaced him did not arrive to make anyone comfortable. Grieve him quietly if that is what it takes. Do not grieve him out loud in front of the people who helped put him in the ground.
They do not get to watch that. They do not get to witness the one soft moment left in you and mistake it for an opening, a crack they can climb back through, a sign that if they just wait long enough, the old one might crawl back out and start apologizing again.
He is not crawling back out. Grieve him alone, the way you did everything else that mattered, and then get up, the way you did everything else that mattered, and let the face in the mirror be the only proof anyone needs that you did. Look one more time. The jaw that does not soften, the eyes that stop searching the room, the hands that do not shake for an audience anymore, the whole unrecognizable weight of him, standing there, not asking a single person in this world for permission to exist exactly the way he is. There will be a room, someday, where someone from the old life sees this version of you for the first time, really sees him, not the guarded, half-familiar version you show at holidays out of habit, but the whole unrecognizable weight of him, standing there in full. And there will be a silence in that room while they recalculate everything they thought they understood about what happened to you, and what it cost, and who you had to become to survive it. Let the silence sit. You are not required to fill it. You spent enough years filling silences that belong to other people's discomfort. This one is not yours to manage. They will ask, eventually, in whatever careful language they've rehearsed for the occasion, if you're doing okay. Tell them the truth or don't. It will not change what's standing in front of them. It will not put the old face back on. Nothing they say in that room, gentle or otherwise, reaches back far enough to undo what already happened in all the rooms they weren't in. You are not owed their understanding, and you no longer needed to know what you survived was real. You will not recognize the man staring back at you now. Good. They didn't build him to be recognized. They built him, without meaning to never need to be forgiven again.